These folks, always out there pointing fingers, crying about how the other side is this looming, oppressive threat of authoritarianism. You hear them yap on and on about it, right? But then, when you take a step back and look at their actions, it's like they're practically begging to embrace fascist tendencies. The irony is absolutely off the charts. It's one of the most brazen acts of hypocrisy in the entire political arena, hands down. And we were just talking about this yesterday, remember? Watching that horrifying clip from The View, just a glimpse into the madness. It's mind-blowing.
Think critically.
Well, it would help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is D.C. and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
It's not going to get any better with Elon Musk now in the administration.
Oh, and if you thought that clip was the only example of left-wing fascist tendencies this week, think again. Oh no, we've got another one. And it's coming from none other than Anthony Scaramucci. Now, I know some people might be quick to jump in and say, well, he's a Republican. But no. Let's not kid ourselves here. This guy has been practically campaigning for the Democrats for the past 4 years. He's a deep state elitist, a New York Democrat through and through. Or at the very least, he's doing their bidding like some sort of political mercenary. And just like Mark Cuban, this guy might be out of a job pretty soon. Why? Well, he just had to go and spill the beans. He let the quiet part slip right out in the open. Honestly, I'd say this guy should be ashamed of himself. But let's be real. He's got zero shame. None. He's got the kind of shamelessness that's almost impressive. Let me show you exactly what went down so you can see it for yourself. And then, of course, let's dive into it because we've got some real juicy stuff to unpack here.
We saw how much influence Elon Musk had in last week's debate here in Washington over government spending. What do you make of Musk's role in Trump's party?
Well, listen, he's got a very powerful role. He's got a $44 billion megaphone. He's got over 200+ million followers. And well, if he was instrumental in that election, the stuff that Elon Musk did in Pennsylvania alone, I think helped the president win that election. So he has a very big voice. I think the problem for Elon Musk, though, he's got a little bit of Potomac fever. And so you think you're going to go to Washington and change Washington. That's Potomac fever. And the weird thing about Potomac fever is one of the symptoms is you don't know you have Potomac fever. And of course, I have had Potomac fever, Wolf, so I'm speaking as a former patient that's been afflicted with the disease. So he's just got to be very, very careful because he's making enemies that he doesn't realize, and the incentives in Washington are totally different than those in business. And so everybody's incentivized in a different and sometimes irrational way. And I think the power that he's wielding right now, Washington has a great immunological system, and I think they'll find a way to rebut him. So I would say to Elon Musk, not he would listen to me, but stick to business. You've done great. You've made a couple $100 billion since the election. Lay off the gas on politics a little bit because these people could hurt you, and it's no need for you to get hurt. You're doing so well in your life.
Who does this guy think he is? Seriously, the audacity. And you know what's hilarious? All these people who constantly wag their fingers at Donald Trump, screaming about how he's a criminal, a mobster, an authoritarian. They're the ones acting like literal criminals, mobsters, and authoritarians themselves. It's mind-boggling. This guy is strutting around like some kind of political mafia enforcer, basically telling Elon Musk to be careful because he's making enemies. Enemies in the political realm, apparently, the kind you really don't want to mess with. He's warning Musk to pump the brakes on his political takes, or else what? He might get hurt? Come on, it reads like something straight out of a mob movie. It's not even subtle. But let's set the mafia vibes aside for a second, because this is just a disgusting look at how these deep state Democrat cronies operate. This is their playbook: intimidation, veiled threats, and power plays. And it's not even new. Remember when Chuck Schumer dropped that infamous line? Oh, we haven't forgotten. This is just another chapter in their same old script.
Take on the intelligence community. They have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
Oh, we're supposed to just sit here and nod along when the intelligence community, the unelected shadowy bureaucrats, and their allies throw out lines like they've got 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. Are we actually hearing this right? The message is as subtle as a sledgehammer. Don't you dare challenge the power of the state. or you'll face the consequences. It's not just a threat, it's practically a declaration of war on anyone bold enough to step out of line. And what's even more infuriating is what this kind of rhetoric reveals about their worldview. These people actually believe that these unaccountable agencies and behind-the-scenes power players are not only untouchable, but that everyone else should just accept it. Sit down, shut up, and fall in line. Excuse me? That is not the America we were promised. This country wasn't built on submission to a permanent bureaucratic class. It was built on the principle that power rests with the people. Yet here we are, watching the supposed defenders of democracy openly bow to the altar of authoritarianism. And then you've got Scaramucci stepping up with his thinly veiled warning to Elon Musk, which, let's be honest, reeks of desperation. He's all but saying, hey Elon, better tread carefully, you're making enemies, and these aren't the kind of enemies you want to cross. Really? Is this the state of modern political discourse? The guy practically sounds like a mafia enforcer, issuing threats in broad daylight. Lay off politics, or else. Or else what, Anthony? Are we supposed to be shaking in our boots? Please. But let's dig deeper, because Scaramucci's warning is more than just empty bravado. It's fear. Plain and simple. Fear of someone like Elon Musk, a billionaire who not only has influence and resources, but isn't afraid to use them to disrupt their cozy little system. Musk's acquisition of Twitter and the release of the Twitter files pulled back the curtain on just how deep the corruption runs. We're talking about documented collusion between big tech and government agencies to suppress dissent, manipulate public opinion, and silence anyone who dares to question the narrative. And what do they call that? Democracy? Give me a break. That's authoritarianism wrapped up in a PR package. Let's not forget the Steele dossier, a completely fabricated hit job funded by the DNC and the Clinton campaign, amplified by the intelligence community, and used as a pretext for years of baseless investigations. Or how about the sham impeachments? Nothing but politically motivated witch hunts designed to derail Trump's presidency. And then there's the constant lawfare, tying Trump up in courtroom battles to keep him off the ballot. These aren't just political tactics. These are acts of desperation from a system terrified of losing its grip on power. Trump beat them in 2024, and Musk has exposed their playbook. The American people aren't buying the lies anymore. The deep state's attempts to crush dissent have only backfired, shining a spotlight on their corruption for the world to see. Now, Scaramucci wants us to believe that Musk should be afraid of what? The same 6 ways from Sunday tactics that couldn't stop Trump? Musk is arguably even more influential than Trump, with his hands on the levers of technology and communication that directly challenge the narrative. The irony is almost too much to handle. And let's not ignore the real issue here. These people hate accountability. They despise the idea of grassroots movements like MAGA. They can't stand free speech unless it's speech that parrots their talking points. Their allegiance isn't to the Constitution, the American people, or even basic democratic principles. It's to the entrenched, unaccountable machine of power that protects their interests. But here's the truth. Their time is up. The American people have woken up to the lies, the fear-mongering, and the blatant hypocrisy. Leaders like Trump and Musk have shown that this corrupt system can be challenged, and more importantly, that it must be challenged. Scaramucci and his cronies can bark all they want, but their threats are starting to sound less like the growl of a powerful predator and more like the whimper of a cornered animal. We've seen it all. The collusion, the corruption, the propaganda campaigns, the Steele dossier, a fraud, the impeachment, political theater, the lawfare, a desperate attempt to cling to power. But none of it worked. Trump is still here. Musk is still here. And the movement they represent is stronger than ever. The American people aren't afraid anymore. They've seen the playbook and they're rejecting it outright. The power belongs to the people, not to some unelected bureaucrats or media elites operating in the shadows. And let me tell you something, Scaramucci, you can hear warnings and threats and shove them because we're not backing down. The system is broken and it needs to be rebuilt. Leaders like Trump and Musk are proving that the rot can be exposed, that accountability can be forced, and that the American people can take back control. So go ahead, keep talking. Every word you say just proves how desperate and out of touch you really are. The fight isn't over, it's just beginning.